Welcome, everyone. In this session, we're going to dive deep into the world of network security, built specifically for you, the K-12 technical staff. We're going to start with the absolute basics of packet filtering and work our way all the way up to what it really means to build cyber resilience for your district.
So, here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the firewall foundation, then get into the key difference between stateless and stateful filtering. From there, we'll jump into the power of next-gen solutions. Then, we'll get our hands dirty with some modern rule sets, and finish up by taking a step back to look at the big picture, building true cyber resilience.
All right, let's kick things off by looking at the absolute bedrock of perimeter security, the packet filtering firewall.
At its heart, a packet filter is basically the gatekeeper for your entire network. You can imagine it like a security guard, standing at the front gate, checking the ID of every single car that tries to come through. It's got a list, a set of rules, and it makes a really simple decision for every piece of data. Yes, you can come in, or no, you're not on the list.
Now, this gets to the fundamental trade-off of these traditional firewalls. On the one hand, they are incredibly fast and super efficient. Why? Because they're only glancing at the outside of the envelope, the header information. That makes them really cost-effective. But that speed is also their biggest weakness. Because they don't look at what's inside the envelope, they leave the door wide open for sneaky, more sophisticated attacks to just waltz right in.
And this is exactly why this stuff matters so much, especially in the world of education. K-12 is what the experts call target-rich, cyber-poor. Think about it. You're protecting a massive amount of incredibly sensitive data, but often with pretty limited resources. So understanding the limits of your basic security tools, like a simple firewall, is absolutely critical.
So this brings us to the next big leap in the evolution of firewalls. As the technology got smarter, so did the firewalls, and that led to this really important distinction: stateless versus stateful filtering.
The huge difference here really comes down to one simple word: memory. A stateless firewall, the first-gen stuff you see on the left, has zero memory of past packets. It treats every single one like a complete stranger. It's fast, yeah, but not very secure. A stateful firewall, though, that's like a guard who remembers the entire conversation. It actually tracks the active connections, which gives it the context it needs to make much smarter and safer decisions.
But of course, the threats didn't just sit still. As the attackers got more clever, our defenses had to evolve all over again. And that led to the development of what we now call Next-Generation Firewalls, or NGFWs for short.
This right here is the core problem that next-gen firewalls were designed to solve. Attackers got smart. They realized they could disguise all kinds of unauthorized apps and malicious traffic to look just like normal, everyday web traffic, all by using a standard trusted port like 443. A traditional firewall would just see traffic on an approved port and say, "Yep, looks good to me," and let it right through, no matter what it actually was.
And the solution to that problem is something called App ID. This technology gives you visibility and control at the application layer. It can identify an app by its unique digital signature no matter what port it's trying to sneak through. For a school, this is a lifesaver. It's how you actually enforce your acceptable use policies and block things like peer-to-peer file sharing that just eat up bandwidth and create all sorts of risks.
Next up is user ID, and honestly, this is a total game changer. Instead of writing rules based on cryptic IP addresses that are changing all the time, you can now write policies for people. You can literally create rules for students, teachers, or administrators, and those rules follow that person no matter what device they're using or where they log in from. It's a huge step up.
And finally, there's Content ID. So if App ID identifies the application, kind of like the type of mail it is, Content ID is what lets you open the envelope and actually read the letter inside. It inspects the content that's flowing through the connection. This is how you do things like URL filtering for SEPA compliance, how you block risky file types, and how you prevent sensitive student data from ever leaving your network.
Okay, so that's all the theory. Now let's get practical. Let's see how you can actually apply these powerful technologies to build an effective, modern rule set for your school district.
This slide shows the single most important principle in modern firewall management. It's called default deny, or sometimes zero trust. The idea is really simple. Instead of leaving all the doors and windows open and then trying to run around and block all the bad stuff, you do the opposite. You lock every single door by default. Then you only open the specific ones that are absolutely necessary for teaching, learning, and running the district. And this table gives you a few real-world examples of how you can turn a school policy into a technical control. See that default deny rule right there at the top? That's our foundation. But then you can see specific rules for outbound traffic, like blocking peer-to-peer to save bandwidth for classes, or forcing all email to go through a secure gateway so it can be properly monitored.
So let's talk about 3 critical rules you absolutely need to have. First, IP spoofing protection. This just means blocking any traffic trying to come in that's faking its address to look like it's already on your internal network, a classic attacker trick. Second, egress filtering. It's a fancy term, but it just means controlling what's allowed to leave your network. This is so important for stopping a compromised computer from calling home to an attacker. And finally, using that app ID we talked about to shut down all those VPNs and proxies that students love to use to get around your web filters.
You know, having the right rules is a great tactic, but true security, that requires a bigger shift in how we think. A firewall is just a tool. Real protection comes from building a resilient program that can actually withstand an attack, not just try to block one.
This is all about answering that really critical question. What happens when things go wrong? A learning continuity plan, based on guidance from great organizations like COSIN, lays out the exact steps to keep school going even when your IT systems are down. It covers everything from who has the authority to declare an emergency, all the way to making sure your backups are off-site, safe, and actually tested.
And this quote on zero-based budgeting is so important because it connects our tech needs directly to the financial strategy of the district. It forces us to be intentional. Instead of just saying, well, this is what we spent last year, you have to clearly explain why every single security tool and service is necessary. This is how you build a powerful case and justify the investment you need for a truly resilient program. So, we'll end with this question. Is your security posture reactive, just running around putting out fires as they pop up, or is it truly resilient, built from the ground up to withstand an attack in the first place? Making that shift from reactive to resilient, it takes strategic planning, it takes constant testing of your defenses, and it takes intentional investment. It's a fundamental change in mindset for sure, but it is the key to protecting your district for the long run.